3 months ago, I didn't have a cookie business. In fact, even 2 months ago, I hadn't thought of starting a cookie business. And I'm actually a mead maker. I'm a commercial mead maker. And I run a small farm in northern Alberta. And it started out with wanting to create a shortbread cookie that didn't make me Jones for sugar at Christmas and didn't make me feel like I was, not able to share anything sort of yummy with friends when they came over for dinner. So, and there's my chickens waiting for some food. Hello, girls. Chook, 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 chook. And despite what most people think, or what I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people who live rurally know about chickens. They know that chickens are actually the raptor family, so they do eat meat. So this is a nice little snack for them, and it's got meat and bones and some fat, and they will love it. So the girls' contribution to the cookies are the eggs. So the cookies that I've made are a animal-based cookie. So it's a carnivore-ish cookie. So I think most people think that cookie companies start in boardrooms, not necessarily on a small farm while you're out with a weighted vest, walking your dogs and doing farm chores like feeding your chickens. But that's, it's kind of how mine came about. I had, I made the cookies over Christmas for people, and then friends were texting me a few days after saying, oh my gosh, I'm missing your cookies. I wish I'd bought some packages. And so one of my friends actually, God bless him, he was my first customer. Once I got my website up and running, he wanted to be my first customer, so he did buy them online from me, and then waited till he came. He actually came and helped me package, helped me process and manufacture my first 100 bags, and then he went home with 2 that he actually paid for. God bless him. So another thing that some don't know about me is I'm also the author of Chicken Poop for the Soul, In Search of Food Sovereignty. So the politics of food has been in my life for, more than 20 years. And I've had a small farm for more than 20 years. I actually started farming or learning to farm when I was living in New Zealand. My neighbor, Tony the Greek, he had 3 acres and chickens and ducks and a pig. Can't remember the pig's name. But every time I went to his place, I learned something new. He kept bees until he became allergic, and then he couldn't handle the bees. He still kept them, but Robin the Honeyman. This was all in the Pohongina Valley in New Zealand. And Robin the Honeyman took over the actual extracting for Tony. But it was always lovely to go to Tony's place and see all the things happening, all the animals being cared for. And it ended up being that Tony gave me my first chicken starter kit, which was, he came up to my place and it was 2 hens and a rooster. And I think I got some ducks off him too. And so that was the start of my farming life and my farming education. And from there, after seeing, Tony keep the bees and stuff, like I was born and raised in Vancouver, definitely not on a farm. And I didn't know how all of that sort of stuff worked, but I always wanted it. I knew I wanted it. I remember from the first time my dad took me to one of the guys that he worked with. He had a little 5-acre farm in Langley. And that was the first time that I'd seen a herd of cows up close, and a big red barn and a hayloft and all that. And I think I pestered my dad all the way home. Please, Daddy, can we have a farm? And his answer was, not on your life. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I mean, I'm barely getting this. I'm just getting this cookie company off the ground. But I've run my meadery now for 6 years. April 6th will be my 6-year anniversary. And I've done well with it. You know, I've won a lot of awards and people like it. And one of my favorite things is first-time triers. I actually really like people who think they don't like mead. It's like, oh, you need to come and try this mead. And, you know, Alberta's the honey capital of Canada. So one of my lines is, I think we should be the Napa Valley of mead. Or for the wine educated, I think we should be the Loire Valley of mead. Because I really do believe in supporting local, eating local economic development. And that's one of the things that I love about my mead is, well, I used to use my own honey, but now I use a professional fella who's local to my area. I use all of his honey. And all of the fruit and flowers, etc., that I make my mead out of, they're all local orchardists. So I love that I'm doing a value-added agriculture, even though the Canadian government doesn't consider it value-added agriculture, even though all of my ingredients except for the yeast is actually from Canada, primarily from Alberta, in fact. It's one of the things that I really enjoy. It's what my book was about. The Chicken Poop for the Soul was really heavily focused on local economic development and the local politics of food. So I love that passion has continued with my mead business, and it actually drives my recipes. Like, I look to the forest to see what Alberta provides, and then I make recipes. I make my mead with ingredients from the forest. So I have one mead called Berries Borealis, and it's a mixture of all the berries that grow wild in northern Alberta. And yeah, it's funny because I also have a master's degree in social anthropology. And when you think that I've done all that university studying and so forth, and now here I am, a mead maker and the founder of a burgeoning cookie business, you wouldn't think that those things go together. But honestly, if I hadn't done my master's in anthropology, I probably would never have known about mead. And I also wouldn't have known as much as I do about First Nations and the food sources that they use here in Canada and what they survived on and so forth. So I might not have ever been able to develop the meadery the way I have. Certainly not using the recipes that I've created. They might not have been so Alberta focused. And some days I think this cookie idea is genius. You know, I think I'm going to be the first animal-based cookie mix. And then other days I think, good Lord, what am I thinking? Man, I like them. My friends seem to like them. And a few, like, I'm going to be honest, a few customers. I only have a few customers so far. We are literally in the first, I haven't even sold 100 bags yet. So, but I've already had repeat customers. And not just best friends as repeat customers, but perfect strangers, which it really encourages me. That makes me feel excited about the potential and that maybe this idea isn't so crazy. And the other thing that the animal-based cookie idea was born out of was, it's about 18 months ago, I stumbled upon a podcast with Dr. Ken Berry interviewing Dr. Sean O'Mara, and they were talking about visceral fat. which of course I have. And it was really a mic drop moment for me, because Omera actually puts up some MRIs of a couple of different people showing the visceral fat and showing the before and after he'd worked with people. So many of the people that he works with, obviously they reduce their visceral fat. And he showed many MRI images like that, and it was incredible just to see the facts. Like, there it was. And even one of them, well, a couple that stood out for me. One was a long distance runner, which long distance running apparently is one of the worst things for visceral fat. It's actually, it's the aha moment that I had while watching that was okay, this is why some long distance runners drop dead of heart attacks, because although they might be slim and cardiovascular wise in shape, as in can run for 26 miles, but they're what's called skinny fat. So inside is a lot of visceral fat. So that really stood out. He had a fella who at first refused to stop doing the long distance running, and he comes in for a checkup, and Omera does another MRI, and he's like, you got to be cheating. You haven't lost any visceral fat. No, I'm eating the proper. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then finally, Omera says, have you stopped chronic long distance running? And he put his head down and he said, no. And so he showed this fella his MRI, and he said, look, you've got to stop it. So he encourages sprinting. Anyway, I digress. The other one that was amazing was somebody who refused to do any exercise, but he was willing to change his diet. And even he managed to lose a bunch of visceral fat and build actual muscle. And they do that through primarily the carnivore diet, definitely ketogenic diet. So anyway, after seeing that, I think I quit sugar the next day. And of course, I've had ups and downs since in the last 18 months, but I've had some good news myself. I've reversed a couple of health issues that I've had. Two very big ones. One was what the doctors just called rosacea. My face was covered. It looked like cystic acne. And I was sent to specialists, and everybody just said, oh, it's just rosacea. It's not curable. And I thought, there is no way that this is just, quote unquote, just rosacea. Sorry, I'm falling and sinking deep into the snow. I knew it had to be gut related, because not even when I was a hormonal teenager did I have skin like that. So anyway, long story short, I worked with a naturopath and then finally came across that video. And once I came across that video, I completely changed my diet. And lo and behold, I've reversed all of that chronic inflammation. The other thing that happened, I think it was 2011. I had a mammogram and I got diagnosed with they called it suspicious lumps on my breasts. And then of course I was kicked into every 6 months having to have MRIs, having to have mammograms, having to have even a punch biopsy, which I really didn't want to have. But that went on for several years, and I finally gave up and I stopped going. And then I think in February 2024, yeah, would have been February 2024, I hadn't changed my diet yet, and I went, and sure enough, you've got suspicious lumps, yada yada. And so then I think it was about May 15th, I quit sugar. Sometime mid-August, I went really keto. And then eventually, probably by September, I was almost carnivore. I was basically carnivore the way Sean O'Mara describes it. So he talks about being carnivore, but he does include fermented foods. So I was using sauerkraut and kimchi. And anyway, then in November, I went for the follow-up ultrasound, and the woman was, you know, all over my breast, and I could tell. I thought to myself, she can't find it. And then I asked her, I said, can you not find it? She said, no, do you remember where it was? And I said, yeah, exactly. And I said, but, you know, like, look at my records just in case I'm not remembering it right. And I got a complete clean bill of health. That ultrasound, when I was finished and went back to my doctor, all of the suspicious lumps have disappeared. So I no longer am on that schedule of being checked all the time. Clean bill of health. And I put that to having quit sugar and carbs. And this is cute. Really fresh little squirrel print. Hopped across there and probably either went up this tree. Actually, I doubt it. She's probably gone up the spruce. So having quit sugar, you know, I still have a real sweet tooth. And I know there's lots of carnivore people like Anthony Chapey, Sean Baker, even Rena, I can't say her last name, the Primal Podcast gal, lovely gal. I've actually spoken to her directly. They're very strict, and with good reason. You know, that's their choice, and that's good for them. Kelly Hogan is another one. She's one that's probably like me in terms of openly talks about sugar addiction. And so she doesn't touch the sweet stuff at all. Whereas I need a little something. Like I just do. Well, maybe need is, let's face it, my metabolism doesn't need it. But I need it. I need it so that I don't go silly and go running off to the store and buy, you know, chocolate bars and chips. So if I can have something that I've created at home that is minimally sweet, that is 100% animal based, nutrient dense, uses things like butter, tallow, eggs, collagen, then I can have my treat and not be derailed, not spike my insulin, not, then kick myself. Like if I was to go to the store and buy a cupcake, say at the grocery store, oh my gosh, I would be jonesing for them for the next several weeks. It would derail me entirely. Whereas I wanted something that I could create and eat with confidence and know that I wasn't going to be derailed. And there are 3 grams of carbs. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of raw date sugar and pure stevia. So there's no sugar alcohols or any of that sort of stuff that can wreck people's guts. They wreck mine. Anything that ends in OL just kills my guts. And I think that that's another reason that I've created this is the way that our food system is really horrifying. And so I want something that people can feel confident in and that I can feel confident in and be proud to be part of making.